in many capacities.
Thank you.
We've got so many things going for us. And in my experience, if we continue the way that we are, we've got all the evidence. We've got this moot court, which is a brilliant moot court. It's different from all the others. This moot court and this whole concept is that we're taking students from Taiwan. We've got nobody from South Africa. They're not interested at all because they're scared of the government, because all the schools are government subsidized. And everybody is too scared to be involved with this. But if we get students from Taiwan, United States, Canada, and other countries, and they act like they are the client, the lawyers for Global Schools Moot Court, and they represent the future. In other words, they act as legal representatives for the future, and they can set up this verdict or judgment in terms of where we say, look, race classification is not a scientific fact. It was designed and promoted in the court of public opinion. Now, this court is situated in the court of public opinion. So this is what makes it unique. And that's why I'm saying we're creating a new order and we're going to succeed.
Indeed, I think we're all here part of a very meaningful event, and personally, I've benefited a lot from the moot court and a mock trial program since I was in high school. So, yeah, I do believe that we are really making a difference in not only part of the legal education, but also, I think many things that might happen in the future and might happen in this generation. Yeah. So, thank you all for making this possible.
Well, I think
for giving me this opportunity to join you.
You're part of this, and I'm telling you, I'm very proud of working with you and Mike and Ben and the others. It's really, like I said, I was born here. I went through very difficult situations for 60 decades. And I must tell you that it's the first time in all this time that I am very hopeful, because, I started this thing 20 years ago. But then nobody believed me. They laughed at me. They said I'm mad. I'm from Mars, and I was investigated, and I went through a couple of bad things. But in the end, we're on the verge of creating this new order, and it is going to be very powerful. And I looked at your CV. I saw all the awards that you received. We have what I call subject matter experts, SMEs. We've got brilliant SMEs like yourself. What your record shows that. I can't see us not succeeding if we can get the kids to do the work, because they are representing their own futures. I see the Jager case as their brief from client to lawyer. We're making history. I've made history before in South Africa. I know what it's about. And the wonderful thing is that this group of core students, although they may be lawyers one day or they may be not. Hi, Ben, I can see you now.
Adrian, let's go ahead and start.
Okay.
Let me...
Roy will talk again later on.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And thank you, Adrian, for the for your introduction and for the impressive point that you just made. So I think, Mr. Cunningham, are we starting the event now? If so, I will stay muted until it's my my time to speak.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you to our End Racism meeting today. As you can probably tell, I'm in the car on the way to school. There was a really bad wreck on the way to school, so the traffic was really slow. So I'll be at school in a moment, but I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. His name is Adrian Myers. He's from South Africa, and he will welcome you to that, our second speaker will be Ben Ramirez, and he's on here and he will speak. Then I will speak a little bit and introduce our featured judge, Roy Sue. And then we'll begin with our moot court approximately in about 1 hour. So Adrian, if you could go ahead and, I'm sorry I didn't get a better introduction, but if you could go ahead and please turn your video camera on and begin. Thank you.
To me, it's very important what we're doing. I said it many times. It's a privilege for me to be here. What I would like to do today is to focus on the kids, the young people, the lawyers, the lawmakers. I specifically call them lawyers and lawmakers because the literal interpretation of the words mean there are lawyers and there are lawmakers, but I'm talking to them as lawyers and lawmakers because it is my experience in South Africa that if you work as a lawyer or a legal advisor or a police officer, then you're in a position to create law. So, and if you look at Parliament, South African Parliament, it's become a circus. But at street level, this is where new acts, new laws, new legislation originate. So this is the important thing of our project, this Global Schools Moot Court program. We're teaching the kids not only to be lawyers, we're teaching them to be lawmakers. And my message to them is that see it from that perspective. You should look at your own future. How are you going to develop your future? Don't wait for other people. That's been a problem in South Africa. I can only speak on behalf of South Africa. My message to them is to look at their own futures as lawyers, as lawmakers at the same time. And the way they should do it is to envisage where they'll be in 30 years' time. Previously, I referred to the 30-year cycle. My experience is when I was a young prosecutor in the Department of Justice, I wish I had somebody like us to assist me, to teach me, to help me, and to show me how to develop, to self-develop. But because what we're doing is lawyers from the future, they have to have skills, they have to have experience, they have to have the perspective, the knowledge, the social skills. There's a whole package of abilities, attributes they need to have to achieve what they want to achieve. But behind that is the matter of cognitivity. People say he's got a high IQ, but that's not what it's about. A lawyer is a higher cognitivity profession, like a medical professional, and there are others as well. What we want to do is to teach the kids of today to self-develop into that. So they have to develop the ability to develop all the attributes. But today, they look at the future and they see, that's where I want to be. But they're going to have a lot of mountains to climb. But we can help them to predict some of it and how to handle some of it. So if our approach can be to teach them to read their own future by starting in 30 years' time, and we will help them with that. How is the law profession, the legal ecosystem going to look in 30 years' time? I can give you a couple of benchmarks: racism, environmental problems, issues, litigation, economics. There are 6 main ecosystems where our future lawyers will function. They have clients there. If they can sit with a client and say to the client, in 30 years' time, this is what I'm going to be, to meet your requirements as a client today, into the future, I need to know where I will be in 30 years' time. Then, if you have the 30 years horizon, work it retrospectively and say, okay, basic example, racism. Racism is going to become worse when you have more refugees and world wars and things like that. It's going to become more complicated, more difficult, and it's going to be bad in future. But not in all the world, but in certain countries. So our clientele, the Del Valle kids, the Taiwan kids and others, if we can teach them how to handle their future, to control it, we will create a strong generation of future lawyers who have the ability to develop their future attributes. And in the end, one of the things that I spoke with Ben and Michael with is the importance of setting up that they have to send up their own law practices. This is what's going to work in South Africa. This is already working here. You get the young kids to develop it, not like in the real court, because they can't function. They're not licensed, they're trained. But where we're setting it up is in the court of public opinion. And if you look at all the social media, I mean, you all know how incredible this is. People are charged, juried, jailed, and over in the court of public opinion. This is where they're going to function. That's their domain. That's their court. If they can do this, where there's no regulation, while in court you have strict rules, your personal behavior, everything, very strict laws and rules. Mike, you've emphasized that in the past. But in this court of public opinion, it's like a free-for-all. There's no rules. If they can do things there with our help, because we have to help them, this, what I call the new order, if we can set up 100 student law practices like that across the world, and they can get in and they can tell the present generations, it's not acceptable for me and my future people, my future clients, to be classified as black or white or colored or Indian, to be called all those nasty names based on color. I have all the evidence. I have thousands of documents of my evidence. Yeah, I pulled them out of my file. It will be a mountain to climb, but we don't have to climb the same mountain as they do. Just one example, University of South Africa, they have age 1 to 4 ECD, educators program. I can see this. Ages 1 to 4. What do they want to train them? To be cadres, communist cadres. In terms of white and black. But they're just university. I studied there. I was blocked there for doing a doctorate by not the present government, by somebody who was a part of the previous government. So I decided to write a book. And you're all part of this book where I say, look, what is the future of the world? And one of the chapters there, one of the chapters is race. I call it, the title of the chapter is Race, the malignant, the malign metaphor, malicious metaphor. The subtitle says, I don't belong in South Africa anymore because my president says I'm a invader. The Minister of Higher Education doesn't recognize me as a citizen, doesn't recognize my language. They say it's not an indigenous language. This whole hate thing. And but you know, look, getting to the other side of this whole thing, I have a document here. I'm using it for my book. And please do me a favor. Just don't laugh out loud. It's from the sex industry in South Africa. There's a person, she's a prostitute. She says, the sex industry is too white for my liking. It's not a court verdict, judgment. It's a judgment of a person in the court of public opinion. This is what we have to deal with. But let's get all this, what I call spaghetti, out of the way. Let's focus on what the Jager case. I previously said to Mike to pronounce it. I found that people from other countries like the Americans, they can't pronounce the G in the Jager. It's called the Jager. It's called Jager. I have brilliant friends in America and other countries, but they can't pronounce it. It's like cleaning your throat. Jager. And that's just a note. My sense of humor sometimes gets a bit the best of me. But getting serious, I was called many years ago. They said to me, a senior member of the government, South Africa, it's composed of the Communist Party, the very liberal, radical Union Council of Trade Unions, Congress of Trade Unions, and the African National Congress. They said, one of their members said to me, "You are white and male and Afrikaans. You don't fit in with our vision for the future." At the time, last year with COVID, the government refused to give COVID money that was donated by white donors, using the government terms for it, to give money to small journalism, tourism companies. This whole thing is absurd. So getting from the prostitutes to the universities, but what we can do, and I am confident we can do that, if we can use the Jager case to start this new order. We've got all the evidence. If we can do it legally, and we can determine the principle, in my opinion, you judges, so I can't influence you. It's not proper to influence you, but what I'm saying is, my opinion is that race classification and color is a malicious metaphor. But if we can get that principle fixed in the Moot court, it will serve as a precedent for us to start. We're setting this, my opinion, my perspective on the Moot court is, let us set it up as a proper court with records, precedents, all the judgments will be filed there. That is a good start. And if schools can start using that and reading that, they've got nothing to go on. They just have the newspapers and stuff like this. Oh yes, and there's another one in South Africa. There's somebody who wants to start a black DNA database. How ridiculous is that? But anyway, let's get to business. I am, after so many years, for the first time, I'm really very optimistic. And it's getting bad in South Africa, all the farm murders and all these things, but we can set it up. And that's why I'm saying you've got my 101% commitment. And what you're doing, Mike, what you started, Mike, Ben, it's just incredible. And with you other guys coming on board, I know that we can do it. And let's do it in the court of public opinion, where they can't criticize us, but we can really have a very strong voice. So I can talk until tomorrow, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adrian. We sure do appreciate it. And Ben, could you share a few words with us, please?
Yes, thank you so much, Michael and Adrian. You know, on behalf of the World Affairs Council of Austin, it's my pleasure to participate in the 2021 Global Schools Moot Court Boot Camp. The World Affairs Council of Austin is a proud partner in this initiative. A couple of years ago, we established a Global Scholars Program to enable students in every nation around the globe to learn through personal interactions with their peers from other countries. This educational concept is designed with the intent to move beyond teaching students theories and instead enable them to develop and implement their own projects and programming. Students pursuing a Global Scholars Diploma participate in educational programs which promote inclusivity, diversity, equity, and access for all. Through intensive study and thought, each student develops the knowledge, skills, and abilities they will need to become responsible global citizens and leaders throughout this coming century. An example of our diploma curriculum units include Peace Day Challenge, Global Debates, Food for Thought series, Model Diplomacy, International Criminal Courts, and International Moot Courts. I have personally been very pleased to watch the growth of students and to see how much success they have achieved by engaging in these types of programs. As Adrian earlier explained, this week we'll highlight interactive moot court sessions presented by the students. During these sessions, they will explore the state of human rights in the world. You know, unfortunately, it's become very difficult to have these types of discussions in our society. And that should not be the case, especially here in the United States of America. So, you know, this whole concept of thinking that segregating people into racial communities and separate social communities based on skill, on the skin color, was something that was not envisioned by past Nobel laureates anywhere around the world as a means to establish a healthy society. So we're very pleased to, and I look forward to hearing students arguing the case of Peter de Jager. And I appreciate everyone for joining us and for your interest in exploring one of the most pressing societal issues facing our world today. I hope you all enjoy these upcoming moot court sessions, and I thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ben. We sure do appreciate it. And we sure do appreciate the support of the World Affairs Council. Today, we're supposed to be joined at some point with about 41 different schools. So we're kind of waiting. We do have one school from Romania on right now. And I'm about to introduce a gentleman that I've known probably since at least 2009. I was able to meet this gentleman through correspondence with his teacher. And at that time, he was a sophomore in high school, but he was really amazing even at that young of age. At that time, we had the Clark Thomas Winters. Clark Thomas Winters was the largest law firm here in Austin and the second or third largest in the state of Texas. And they decided that they wanted to support us, and they came over and spent like 2 or 3 days here, and they had some of their partners, and everybody came. And we had 13 original schools to set up, and we had mock trials. And we had some people that were very, very interested into it. There was a lady from the Peel School Board up in Toronto, and it got down to the semifinal or the final round, and it featured this gentleman we're about to introduce here, school from Taiwan and school from Canada, and they were at that time, I think, regional champions in moot court, and they were very, 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 very good. After listening to the speeches, I got to talk to one of the managing partners, and he was explaining he was so impressed with Roy. That he said, this guy is going to be amazing. He's going to do amazing things in his life. They've never seen somebody that would be, in fact, I think he even used the term Perry Mason moment. He would stop the people dead in their tracks, and they couldn't say anything and didn't even know what to do. And when I told him, well, this is like his third or fourth language that he was doing this in, and they said, oh no, you know, I thought he was a native speaker of English. I said, no, I know English is like his third or fourth language. They were taking mock trials to learn to enforce the language. And it just went on there for him. He'll tell you his own story really well, but he goes on and competes in the Jacob Moot courts in college. And I think he gets top brief and one of the top speakers in several competitions and stuff like that. Today, he is a very successful attorney in Taiwan. And he'll probably tell you that he got his he probably has an interest in his talent way before he started doing this. But doing this actually probably steered him in the right direction to where his vocational goals are now. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to bring opportunities to people all around the world. And it can happen no matter where you're at. You think this is kind of here in the United States, we're pretty excited about thinking that we're in the first world. But like today, for example, I had to start we had traffic issues on 35, which Ben will probably tell you happens quite often. Delayed us about half hour. And so I started on my cell phone. I can be talking to Adrian, who has intermittent power, almost better than I can talk to some of my own students that live maybe 4 or 5 miles away from here. And we live in a fairly large metropolitan area. This is a very global society. The students that we're going to be talking to today, or the students that you're going to see, are actually people that will be in this society where it'll be nothing to maybe telecommute to parts that we don't even know about today. Attorneys are changing a lot of things. You think of a courtroom drama, it'll be more video. Even in the United States, many of our courtrooms are turned into video courtrooms, and it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, there are some people, I don't want to refer, but I like Adrian, got a gift of gab here a second, but I just want to explain to you something that may be related to if you're interested on films. The Three Stooges were probably some of the most talented people in the world. There was actually 6 Stooges, but 3 of them were brothers, Mo and Shemp, and Mo, Shemp, and Curly. Curly's name was actually Jerome. And when Shemp left the group, they talked Jerome into cutting his hair, gaining some weight, and he didn't think he was very funny. Actually, he was voted to be the top comedian, and this guy was tremendously funny on video, on the big screen, even small shorts. But he was very funny, extremely funny. But in person, he couldn't hardly tell a joke or anything. Mo had a photographic memory. I think he blew up part of his school when he was in the 9th grade. You know, kind of got kicked out of school for blowing up in a chemistry class. But he was the one that first came out with the idea of taking 3 cameras. He's the first person to come out with 3D type of television. You could actually see this kind of stuff there. Shemp, however, was so good in person. This guy was so funny. Everybody wanted to be around him, but on TV, I mean, when it went on the big screen, he was flat. He couldn't do it. And you're going to see the same with courtrooms and stuff today. Witnesses that were very good in the courtroom, when it comes across on TV, there's something with the camera, not TV, you know what I'm saying, come across on video, there's something with it, it just doesn't come across. I've seen passionate people who gave marvelous speeches in person, but on the camera, the passion is just really flat. So we are living in a very visual world. We're living in where this is going to become second nature, and we're providing to them opportunities now. We're doing this without cost. So this is it's really something, it's investing. So all we're asking is for people to invest their time, and you can see the results, and we're actually going to show you some successful people. At 8 o'clock today, or in approximately about a half hour, we are going to have our first moot court. I'm fascinated about this part because I kind of came up with some of the background of it myself. Now, I've known Adrian probably for, I guess, about a decade. It's the first time we were able to actually work on a large project together. So I'm very, very excited about it. And this idea that we can see that equality should be for everybody. We shouldn't have equal for one and not equal for another person. And this is what's happening in our world, is we have these inequalities.
and be very careful to say that you cannot have equality when you have inequality for anybody. I believe Martin Luther King, in the anniversary of the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, when he gave "I Had a Dream" speech, said that we should be judging people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And today we have kind of gone backwards, and we just look at people. As being a professional historian and a professional genealogist, I pretty well know my backgrounds, and I know that my family came from China, my family came from Korea, my family came from Armenia, my family came from Georgia. Ben knows a little bit about some of my families because I'm really excited about when we get to talk to some of these ambassadors and stuff. My family came from India. You know, I do not probably look like any of those now. So if we just go by what we look like now, we really throw away the richness of what we actually are. We are a large conglomeration of everybody that's passed to this day. And we should embrace that and then try to find out that we have much more in common than what we are trying to look at. I always like to throw up these pictures, and you could ask, what do they have in common? And this is really strange. I think that's how we should start teaching equality, is that there's only one race, the human race, and this idea of having all kinds of different races and identifying them into that is just really not trying to help us out at all, from a diplomatic point of view or anything else. But we're going to see that in our moot courts. We're going to see that tomorrow when we talk about the genocide, ICC genocide trial. But I really would like to introduce today Roy. Like I said, I met Roy in the fall of 2009. He'll explain a little bit more about that. I probably have more tape on Roy than almost anybody in I guess right now. Last time I counted, I think I've got about 20 different videotapes and stuff of some of his stuff, including a couple times when he cross-examined some of my students and they spend about a minute or 2 minutes of just blank silence, blanking out. This is really probably one of the unique gifts I've ever seen of anybody, and it's amazing that you can see it at that early age. I thought so at the time. The partners at Clark Thomas Winters thought so, and now today I believe courtrooms all around Taiwan probably are thinking the same thing. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce Roy, the Honorable Roy Su, Consular in Taiwan. Roy, if you could unmute and show yourself. Thank you, Roy.
Indeed. So thank you, Mr. Cunningham, for your kind introduction. And so shall I just proceed with what I was about to say?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Don't let me interrupt you, Consular.
Thank you, Michael. So something about myself. Personally, I participated in the international mock trials in about 2009, 2010. And then I was a high school student studying at currently the affiliated high school of National Zhongshan University, which has also been an active member of the international video conference programs. And so I think today I would take the opportunity to share something about how I have how the international mock trials had led me to where I am now. So I think I would like to say something about how the international mock trials had affected my personal career. When I was in high school, I participated in the International Video Conferencing program of my high school, and international mock trials were one of the courses available then. And the international mock trials did inspire my interest in law. So when I graduated from high school, I attended the law school of National Zhengzhi University, which is located in Taipei, Taiwan. And from the experiences I gained from mock trials in high schools, I continued to pursue opportunities to take part in moot courts when I was studying in law school. I took part in the Jessup International Moot Courts competition, which is hosted by the International the International Law Students Association, which is headquartered in the United States. And I also did the International Humanitarian Law Moot Court competition, which was held by the Red Cross Society. And that competition focused on the law of war or the law of armed conflict. And these mock trials and moot court competition, I think effectively brought me from law in books to law in action. And I would say that this is particularly meaningful for law students in Taiwan. In Taiwan, legal education tend to focus on proceedings of courts and scholarly opinions, which is perfect training for judges and scholars. But training for lawyers is rather lacking in Taiwan. So these mock trials and moot court experiences did give me a very different opportunity from what my peers have experienced during the course of their legal education. So after I graduated from college, I joined. I passed the bar exam, and in the beginning of my practice, I finished my traineeship at PricewaterhouseCoopers Legal in Taiwan, where my practice focused on compliance advice for financial institutions. And then later I joined the Times High Law Firm, which is where I serve now. This is an international law firm in Taiwan, advising clients from home and abroad. And currently my practice focuses on antitrust, mergers and acquisitions, white-collar crimes, and general corporate compliance advice. So I think throughout the course of my legal career, I would say that the international mock trials in high school were really a start. And that was where I began my legal career. And so I would like to take the chance to talk about, I think, two aspects that have benefited me of the international mock trial courses in the video conference program when I was in high school. So I think first, mock trials and moot courts, they feature problems. They feature a moot problem, a mock case, to which there are always two parties. And this means that there is no single answer to the issue at hand. Indeed, for law students, like what I have experienced, and probably the experiences of some law students from other civil law jurisdictions, mock trials and moot courts will bring law alive. They allow the student to see what the law might look like in the real world. Well, indeed, the law in mock trials and moot courts are still rather academic or theoretical in comparison in what we see in practice. But at least the mock trials and moot courts are a good start for the law student. But I would also say that these mock trial courses benefited many of my peers who thereafter did not decide to pursue a legal career. The thing about mock trials is that these problems, there is no black or white answer to mock trial or moot court problems. To really really complete a mock trial competition, students have to learn to think from aspects of different interested parties. If you are the prosecution, you have to know what the defense thinks. And if you are the defense, you probably will have to understand why the prosecution is bringing its case. And I think the way of thinking cultivated by the mock trial, mock trial cases does not only apply to students pursuing a legal or political career, and this mode of thinking applies to problems beyond purely legal or political problems. These this way of thinking, of appreciating how other people might think differently, also applies when the issue at hand is very much a scientific one. This, for example, in patent cases, we see this, and even in a broader sense, in climate change debates, the ability to argue an issue from different points of views is also important. Many of my peers who then participated in mock trials with me later pursued careers in business, finance, and so forth. And from time to time, when I talk to them, I understand from them that these mock trial cases in their high school days did make a difference in how they think about the future and how they think about problems. And the second point that I would like to talk about would be the international horizons from the mock trials. Indeed, that's what we're doing now. Students are probably arguing problems to be governed by foreign laws. And at first glance, the student might ask, what does foreign law have to do with me? As a Taiwanese, even if I were to become a lawyer, will I ever argue before a South African court? Will I even argue before a court in the United States? But to me, the argument case under foreign law is really a unique opportunity to have in high school. You get to learn about what people from different jurisdictions think. And you get to know what people care about by looking at the issues that appear in these moot problems. For example, today we will be looking at the Yahoo case. And from a Taiwanese perspective, this will be a great opportunity to learn about the problem with racism in other jurisdictions, because that probably isn't really an issue of concern in Taiwan, where languages and racial composition, where the historical background of these can be rather simpler than these of other jurisdictions, such as South Africa. So through the Yahoo case, for example, a Taiwanese student will be able to understand this issue that is of particular concern in South Africa. So mock trials, especially international mock trials, broaden students' horizons, and I say that because it broadened mine, to an international world. And inevitably, students nowadays will be working in an international environment, and they would very likely be cooperating with partners from different jurisdictions, and they will very likely be competing with people from different countries and cultural backgrounds. It is always important to know what other people think. Either you are cooperating with them or you're competing with them. And this is what I have experienced thoroughly during my practice in an international law firm. We advise clients from almost around the world. Companies, I've handled cases where a German company merges a US company, and we took care of the antitrust filing in Taiwan. And in many other cases, we advise clients on the legal compliance in Taiwan under Taiwanese law. We do much more than translating the law into English and then explaining the law to our foreign clients. Very often, we have to think about the problems, the questions that come from our clients. We have to think about how these questions arise. And I think this experience, and I think this work environment will apply far beyond the legal profession. When we do business, we do research across borders. For example, that's what I've heard from my brother, who is conducting research in computer science. So I think whether or not a person is going to pursue a legal career in the future, international mock trials will broaden his or her horizons to what people think from different nations. And I think it's inevitable that we will all be working in the same world and communicating frequently with each other. So looking back at the 10 years that I've walked through from the start of the international mock trials, I would really say that these mock trials and moot courts competitions they benefit students a lot, and I'm really grateful for all of you who have devoted your efforts to make this possible. 10 years ago, I was a high school student in a classroom in the central part of Taiwan, and getting nervous for the upcoming mock trial competition. And now I am working in an international law firm, enabling large transactions across borders and working in white-collar criminal defenses. So I would like to encourage students who are interested or who might be interested in the mock trial or moot courts competition courses to do your best to take part in this wonderful event. And I could almost guarantee that if you devote your efforts and time, this would be a rewarding educational experience, whether or not you will become a lawyer or any other professional in the legal field. And young people are indeed getting ready to join this ever-changing international society. And I'm confident that through the efforts now devoted by enthusiastic educational professionals from different countries, we're putting together a rewarding educational program that will assist students, that will enable students to participate in cooperation in this changing international society and challenging environment to come. We're looking at issues from different jurisdictions. We are making a change, and we are making a change here. So I would like to thank all of you again for giving me this opportunity again to share what I have learned throughout my educational experience, and to perhaps offer something that could make this entire educational experience even more fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roy. And I just wanted to show everybody that what he was saying was true. We're going to share something here with him. Just a second. Hopefully it works. Yeah, I was going to, excuse me a second. I just wanted to show that just a second. I had a bunch of stuff from Roy too, but I didn't want to embarrass him on some of his cross-examination things because he was very wicked. But I did want to at least show that part. It is really nice, and things have come a long ways. Not necessarily here in the States since 2009 because our technology still is kind of bogus, but just being able to talk like this today is very good. Now, I'm waiting on my students who are supposed to join us. While we're waiting, let's see if we can get Godfrey. Could you unmute and tell us a little bit about what's going on in Uganda? Godfrey there? Okay. Lydia, could you tell us a little bit about what's going on in Romania? Okay. Well, I thought maybe we could get some participation, but we'll just wait just a second. Ben, what did you think of Roy's speech? Is that what you had in mind for like Global Scholars Diplomas?
Absolutely, Roy. It's a pleasure to meet you. I haven't had the chance to meet you prior to this, but that is exactly the results that we'd like to see here from. And I have had the chance to see a couple students that have gone through the program that are now in college, you know, and are working still toward going and pursuing a legal career. So yes, your history is phenomenal, and it's a great example of why it's so important to engage individuals at a younger age to prepare them for society in general, and not necessarily a legal career. So I'm glad that you brought that point up as well. When I went through law school, I myself am not practicing law, and many of my former colleagues from law school aren't practicing law, but we found skills pursuing that degree that have benefited us throughout our years afterwards.
Now,
Indeed, thank you.
Adrian, full disclosure, you're an attorney too, correct? Adrian? You're mute, Adrian. Okay, good. You're an attorney too, correct?
I spent my life working in courtrooms and also other capacities. I always wanted to be where the action is. I started as a prosecutor, civil court, and then prosecutor. I studied after hours. I actually wanted to become a veterinary surgeon and a game ranger, but my grade 10 teacher said to me, no, forget about it, there's no money there. So I started getting interested in law, and I must tell you, there's so much excitement in it. And I'm telling you today, listening to these guys, I'm this Roy, he's very sharp. We have a saying in Afrikaans, he's vlamskerp. It's like a blade. You can see that. And I must tell you, listen to, you've got such a good team here. So I'm very, very, very motivated. I'm very inspired. Can I just say, I speak on behalf of Godfrey. He can't get through probably. He's got so many problems financially. Looks like
Godfrey, do you want to say something while we're waiting? If not, I'd like to introduce you to Sean. Sean is worked with Lisa, who was one of the people that coached the team that was going against Roy in the finals for that 2009 competition. Lisa has developed cancer and has passed away, but Sean has been doing a really, really wonderful job, and he's at a different school, I think Central Appeal, and we'll see him tomorrow afternoon, but it'll be real late for a lot of people, so we'll have it taped. But Sean, you want to say something? Well, we're waiting on this. Well, I guess Sean got in and out, excuse me. We're having a little difficulties on that. But yeah, I think you're exactly right with Roy. Roy was really sharp then and very sharp now. Don't ever underestimate him. We would try to unwit ourselves, and people are just I don't want to be cross-examined by that man. I don't want to be cross-examined. I can just wonder what happens to the witnesses. This is in high school. I hate to see what happens to the people nowadays, you know. Roy, you still like that in real life or no? You were really scary in high school.
I'm not that scary now. My practice is not, it's not focused on litigation now. So
well, that's good. Okay. So when you go in the room, nobody just, you know, they just give up right away, right? What was your, Adrian, what was your favorite part of being a prosecutor?
Rather ask me what was not my favorite part. It was so frustrating because you get a docket from a police officer, and then there's so many gaps in the evidence that was my greatest problem. But as a police officer, then I later joined the police where I became a senior prosecutor, investigator. That was brilliant. I did investigations for the government, for Interpol, and to me, it's like a game. And I think Roy you will agree with me, and Ben, it's like a game there in court. Referring to Roy's capabilities, you get cross-examined by senior advocates, and you start playing with them because you know more than the case. They think you're just a stupid, low-level police officer, and you really start playing with them. Now that to me was incredible. I did incredible cases. There was a general in the police. He always called me to do. He said to me, 10 o'clock, I want a result on this case. There was assassination cases, political cases and all that. That to me was really brilliant. And later on, I joined Special Forces on their request. And I did a little bit of bundu judging as well. Bundu meaning in the bush. There's no court there. An example is where one guy was sleeping and the other guy didn't waking up, so they accused each other. There was no guard there. How do you solve a case like that? Also more serious cases. So looking at, that's why I'm introducing also, would like to introduce comedy court. And I think that's Roy. I mean, all of us, but I think Roy has got that. And I'm looking at him and not, we have a saying, I'm not trying to put honey around your mouth to tell you good things, but I can see that, and Mike, I'm impressed. You've got a very good team here. So I wish I had somebody like that to teach me when I was still young. I had to figure it out for myself, and I did it by myself. Nobody helped me. But this event is really amazing, because if you've got guys like that, Ben, and all the other guys, I think Godfrey will be happy, because he's finding himself linked to this incredible group of people. So I'm very, very excited about this whole thing.
Yeah, you know, we could talk about Henry, or we could talk about a lot of other people. Tony, I think Tony's going to speak for Mimi next week on a deal about that. He's in business. Hey, Godfrey, go ahead. Godfrey, you going to say something? I'm sorry. Okay. We have a couple, one person from India and one person, I think, from Bangladesh. I'm not sure, I forgot. To give you a little background very quickly, and I'm hoping that my students will join in a second. We have 50 countries right now that have signed up for next year, that memorandum of understanding, and we're right at about 100 schools. Now, with that in mind, we have to be very, there we go, good. With that in mind, we have to be very cognizant of several different approaches that we're going to do. We have for asynchronous, and because of time, we're going to do stuff with Kilo. We talked to them. It's a debate type platform, but works out really well. We are going to do Flipgrid. We talked to them and talking to them later on as well. And it's a video type of process where we can continue this type of engagement. part of the problem about live is just like live television. Sometimes people don't show up on time, and sometimes, you know, electricity, and there's all kinds of variances. But we don't want to have anything as an excuse. You know, this mission of trying to help people is more important than anything that. So there's no real reason to stop. This pandemic was kind of like a hiccup. This year we weren't able to get as many people as we wanted to. In fact, Vietnam and Taiwan both went down for schools in the past week or so. I think Vietnam went out for the rest of the school year. Taiwan is supposed to start back again at the end of the month. But you know, we can still utilize different things to where we can still do these connections and still help out these people. I had a student, several students. One I know Roy knows that, and I know Tony knows very well, because he and Tony would argue quite a bit with each other. And Roy may have done it his senior year when he came back, and that gentleman didn't finish college. So, you know, then we had one person graduate Friday. She went to school. She did all through this stuff, and she was very, very successful. And then she graduated from college in 2 years, and she's going to go to law school in the fall. So I've seen this program work really, really well, not only for us, but for schools internationally. There's a lady, a young lady that was doing this from us from Karad School in Iran, and she's going to go back, and she's working on her medicine degree, doctoral medicine, and she's helping her school out to kind of coach them this fall to they get back in the program. So this is a really good way of giving back, whether you want to become an attorney or not. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to start. What you're going to see real quickly, let me try to explain. We were going to go against Godfrey's group, but Godfrey's group, little hiccup on the electrical stuff. So we're just going to demonstrate it to you today. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're going to go against Sean's group. But that'll be way off the time for some of you. So we wanted to kind of show what this would be about for everyone. You're going to see a person representing the applicant. The applicant is Peter DeShager. You'll probably hear us say a bunch of different ways. I know that Roy will say it one way, I'll say it another way, and then the correct way, Adrian will probably tell us, because there's a hard G in there somewhere that it doesn't come out in my English really well. This gentleman worked at a University of Pretoria, for around 20 years. Very renowned in his field. There goes Sean again. Very renowned in his field, and he feels like he was forced out of a position, and he tries to use the Constitution to regain. He goes all the way to Constitutional Court, and he's asking the Constitutional Court of South Africa to look at the Constitution and see if what happened to him was actually constitutional or not. It'd be very similar, and then what Roy had mentioned before, it's very similar when you start looking at this, how our rights and stuff can easily vanish. Even though on paper we have some sort of protection, the constitutions of different countries will allow us to redress that. And that's why it becomes so important that people understand what their rights are, whether you're going to be in law enforcement, accountant, business, or whatever, and just the communicative skills. I mean, I cannot tell you how impressed people have been. Mimi Mary in Taiwan teaches English as a foreign language. And she does this international video conferencing, and you see some of these students from Taiwan. English is kind of like a part-time type course for them. And they come through and they're speaking English as well as native speakers. You could probably not tell that Roy, I think Roy can speak 3 or 4 other languages besides English. This is not his first language at all, but you can't really tell any difference. And this will help you. If you can think in the language, that will help you so much more. And this is what we don't get here in the States. We just learn basically how to transfer from one set of from this into that language without really thinking in that language. And a lot of times people will lose the language. And that's what we're not trying to do. We're trying to teach people how to think in that language, and it'll work out. Sean, do you want to say something and introduce a little bit about Toronto or Appeal School Board? Sean, while we're waiting here a second.
Hi, Mike. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Oh yeah, I just woke up because it's it's a holiday here, so
I know.
I just wanted to say hello to everybody listening from regards from Ontario, Canada, and I just piped in at the last minute there, and I agree with you, Mike. I think just this bringing this group together to delve into these issues is so significant, and it's a pleasure to be able to connect with all different educators and have the students also connect with each other from all parts of the world. I know our students here in Canada tomorrow are looking forward to just having conversations, and right now with what's going on in the world, it's what these kids need, I think, is to connect for sure. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. You missed, I actually showed some of Lisa's old group from 2009 on the video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so actually speaking, it was kind of weird. Lisa's group went against Roy and them, and when we had all these partners and stuff over here, and they were totally impressed with that. So I had said that Lisa had contracted cancer and stuff, but I saved that video for occasions like this to kind of reminisce. But you know, even though it was a long time ago and we used a lot of different technology, the same thing goes, you know. And Roy went from his sophomore year of doing this to now he's a very highly successful international lawyer in Taiwan. So you can actually see people that go through this process that be very successful as well. And that's what we're trying to help for other countries and our own students ourselves.
That's great. That's great.
I'll let you go back to bed. I didn't mean about waking you up, but
no,
yeah,
I actually my students wanted to watch the next Moot. I don't know if
it should be here directly. We're kind of waiting in a second because my students are having difficulty coming on. We have a middle of a really bad thunderstorm, and I don't know if it's hurting our internet services or what, but they were supposed to have been on at 8 and it's past 8 now. So we're still all virtual, but they haven't come on. So we're kind of in the holding pattern right now.
Okay, no problem.
No problem. Thank you so much. So we'll go back to this. There's nothing worse than having time in which we don't have people to do the time with. When we planned this out, we were going to do this a year ago last spring. Adrian will tell you. And with the pandemic hitting and everything, that kind of put a kibosh. So we forwarded it to this year. And little did we know that in some areas we're coming out of it. In other areas, they're getting more into it. So we were going to start today off. I was going to start today off about 2 o'clock in the morning with a court case from Vietnam versus Taiwan. And then when they shut down, it was going to be Taiwan against Taiwan, but then they shut down, and we're transferring that to June. So we have a lot of different things. Hopefully, let's go ahead. Adrian, did you want to add something else here a second? Thanks.
I have a word for Ben. I like his library. That's really fantastic. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
And,
Ben.
Roy, my mind is blurred out, but I've got a lot of, but anyway, I'm referring to the specific theme that we have, the De Jager case. And it's so, it encapsulates the whole South African situation. And adding to what Roy said, the Afrikaans culture, the South African culture in that is very important, because we, as well as the kids, we find ourselves in the presence of the Nobel laureates. And what we're doing is to continue their work. And people must see that. They were harassed, beaten, some of them. They were locked up. Nelson Mandela was locked up for 27 years. He came out with a smile on his face. And what we're doing is, they couldn't end racism. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela succeeded in ending the regime, the apartheid regime. But today, racism is getting worse in South Africa. All over the world, following the Trump election and the Biden election, racism was all over. So the one thing I would like to say is that although we have a mountain to climb, what I've seen today during this mini convention is so encouraging. And you've got one thing that I would like to mention is that something that we've discussed, you and Ben and I, is that we should look beyond just getting a verdict. We should look at instituting a system where all these achievements of the schools should be recognized as assets, although it's intangible, invisible. 10 years ago, I was called stupid because I said that achievements like that should be recognized, and also there should a monetary value added to it. But suddenly in the last 2 years, there's a huge drive in the corporate world to recognize intangible assets, invisible assets as assets. But what we're doing here is to link it to a monetary value so that you can use it in career architecture. So we should, what we achieved today is a huge achievement. It's invisible, it's intangible, but it has a value. So we can create for the kids tangible, visible, and achievements that can be translated into career currency for them. And that to me is what I'd like to see come out of this. And in the process, we need to help Godfrey and others who are really battling with their technology to get on board. But he has started a program there, Friends of Kanabulemu, and the first thing we should do is to help them get internet communication links, mobile phones. So if we can get that, we're on your way.
Yeah, that's one thing. It'd be very special. I remember doing a video conference with Jacob back around 2015 when we were talking to school from Kenya, and they were riding a bicycle to generate the power to do their Zoom conference. So, people can, if there's a will, there's a way. It's very, we just have to create that will is the best way to do. I am still befuddled about why my students, I've been emailing them back and forth, so we should hopefully join. Now, the point which hopefully we understand it, and especially I think Roy brought up earlier on the moot court, is that you need to be able to understand both sides of an issue. And this is one thing, it's kind of dangerous because we're having a large problem here in the States where we're trying to you just want to teach one side to something. You don't ever get to teach both sides. And it is dangerous for people to actually learn because that way they have to think. And I was talking to a person, Ben knows the person, And they asked me, well, you can't have a moot court because then they might vote the wrong way. Well, the problem is, folks, we want people to think. We don't want to have just a uniform. Diversity of thinking is good, especially if you get the idea of thinking. It's this dogmatic approach to of always just believing one thing without even knowing why you believe it is what ends up getting us in tremendous problems. Adrian, could you address the Constitution in 1996 and how it differed from the Constitution in 1948 in South Africa?
We in 1948, there was a transfer of power from the old United Party, which had a very strong British ties to a more Afrikaans national unity constitution. But in there, they started the separate development issue, but they just put it on paper. In 1903, just after the Boer War, the British took the country with arms. It was a big war with both my grandparents, my grandfathers fighting in the war as kids. Then there was this Lord Milner. He started apartheid, but not the term apartheid, but he started the concept. Even where it wasn't allowed to, nobody was allowed to speak Afrikaans. If you speak Afrikaans in the class, you had to stand in the corner and you had a little hat on it was written donkey. It wasn't allowed for colored people to go from a town called, from one town, the other town, in the Cape Province. You had to take out a permit. He started it. Jan van Riebeeck, 1652, he brought in a rule that white staff members may not get married to a black woman. At the time they were called Hottentot woman, unless she becomes a Christian. So this kind of thing was there. But getting to 1948, it was the first Afrikaans-speaking government, but it was run by a group called the Broederbond, the Brotherhood, and all the power was concentrated in that organization. And gradually they brought in rules and regulations and laws. And in 1960-61, we became a republic. So we decolonized totally. It was then, the apartheid concept was then strengthened in terms of, they started the areas for black people, the various cultural groups, which was a mess. It became worse and worse and worse. And then in 1990, that was the watershed moment. That was with Nelson Mandela already in jail for more than 20 years. They got together with F.W. de Klerk, and they decided to set up a one-man, one-vote government. So that in 1993, we had a referendum, and officially the Afrikaans-speaking people voted. They said, no, we don't want apartheid anymore. And then in 1994, we called in a new government that was ANC majority, and then